Hey guys, so as promised, I'm going to talk about some other non-Walking Dead stuff. And I watched the premiere of Falcon and the Winter Soldier. So here's a couple of things. Much like Wanda and Vision, I wasn't that crazy about Sam Wilson. I mean, he was okay. It's not, not a favorite. I didn't dislike him or anything like that. He's just, okay. I've always found, ever, well, not always. Winter Soldier is obviously a bit more of an intriguing character, um, or at least more sympathetic. Here's why. Here's what we have. I was rewatching Civil War the other night too, and Steve says to Tony, "He's my friend," which is true. What Steve should have said is that he's a victim. So basically, what we have here is that James Buchanan Barnes goes to war. He gets captured, and just when he thinks he's almost out or whatever, he you know loses an arm, falls off a train. It's a little bit fuzzy, the details to me, but anyway, he gets captured again. He's experimented on, and then he's brainwashed and turned into this killer assassin that they freeze and bring out whenever they felt the need to. Right, he becomes just a weapon to be used at the disposal of Hydra. So even though he remembers all of his victims, he had no agency. He had no free will. He didn't. He, and that's that. So he's a broken character, and it's hard to not empathize with something like that. So in that sense, that's to me, that's a character like that. That's always kind of an interesting route to go down because he's not a bad guy, but he's done a lot of bad things. So where do you put someone like that? He's trying, right? And so in this first episode, then we have Sam. We meet Sam's family, his sister, his nephews, and we learn a bit about him and, how he kind of not neglected, but kind of stepped away from his family while they struggled. And then obviously he disappeared for 5 years. Now he's trying to rectify things and help the family business and the house and everything. And it's just, on the one hand, I appreciate the reality of the situation because this is very realistic. And on the other hand, this is such bullshit. Here you have a twice over veteran. So Sam was already a veteran when we first meet him in The Winter Soldier. When Steve Rogers is running laps around him in circles, right? He's a veteran. He works at the not the veterans house. That's not the word that I want. But anyway, so he has that, right? He worked for the U.S. Army. And he's a veteran again, fighting in this battle to save the planet, the entire planet, and they win. Takes him 5 years, but they win. He's part of that. He's part of you know that win. He's one of those veterans too. I know there's been a lot of talk about, well, why didn't Tony pay them? Well, he wasn't their boss. He coordinated the Avengers. Well, actually, Nick Fury coordinated the Avengers, but he gave them, he got the facility, the building and stuff. He paid for all that where they could train and whatnot. So Tony was footing that bill. He gave them a place to live if they didn't have one. Um, Train and eat. So he took care of all that. But I guess they weren't getting a paycheck for him. However, especially with the accords for those who did sign, that was 117 different countries. No one was paying into that. No one was paying into an Avengers fund. Like, hey guys, you have to follow these certain rules. And by the way, here's a check on top of that. Because now you're contractors for us to do, to save the world from bad shit. So I guess that wasn't happening either. There was no, you know, uh, what's the word? Even though Sam was gone for 5 years, he wasn't getting like there were still no checks coming in for him for that. Like you'd still think that there'd be something. There was nothing, and there was nothing when he came back, which is bizarre. And then you had the banks who won't give this man a loan. It's like you acknowledge he's a hero, a world hero, a worldwide hero, and he can't get a loan. That's just like the most like fucked up, bizarre, but also realistic thing to see. And I'm glad that the show is addressing it. It's addressing, the issue with veterans, and it's addressing the issue of racial inequality at the same time, which are things that you wouldn't expect from a show like this. But the fact that it's taking this kind of, realistic, real world political turn as well, just adds another layer of amazingness to this show. Um, so anyway, it obviously I identify with that, like if nothing else, that's easy for me to get, being a black woman, um, easy for me to understand. But also we see, Sam's, his internal struggle with the loss of Steve. No, let me say it's assumed that Steve is dead. We don't actually. I would think that if old Steve did actually pass away, that there would have been some kind of funeral or something for him. Like I can't imagine why they would. I mean, you don't need Chris Evans to even do a scene like that. But it's assumed that he's dead, right? And as a side note, it always bothered me that, in Endgame, that old Steve was so like weak and frail looking. It's like he is a super soldier for crying out loud. Like even if he gets older, why wouldn't he still be kind of like, big and buff, kind of like how old is Schwarzenegger right now, right? Mr. Universe. Did the serum just kind of wear off and he kind of slowly reverted back to his original DNA state or something? Like I would love to have an explanation for that. Anyways, um, I lost my train of thought. So we don't get the two of them in the same room in this first episode, which is fine. They were laying a ton of groundwork. So we got a lot of interesting things with Bucky that that I expected to see. We see his nightmares. I didn't expect to see him with the therapist or making amends. I like that though. I like that we see that. The fact that he befriended the father of one of his victims and how he's struggling with that. I mean, that's fucked up, but I like that too. It's adding a lot of layers on how he's isolated and alone. Um, it's although he seemed to have a nice little loft that he was living in, even though he wasn't sleeping in bed. I imagine there was a bedroom, unless it was a studio. It was kind of hard to tell from the angle that we saw, but it seemed like a nice little space wherever he was. So he's getting money from somewhere. I don't know. Um, anyway, hopefully in this next episode we get the two of them in the same. I can't imagine we don't get the two of them in the same space. They're only doing 6 episodes, which I think is fucking insane. It's insane. I need to language. Mind my language for those ads. Anyway, um, 6 episodes, which seems incredibly short. I really hope that we get a second season because I know I'm going to love this show. There's just so much depth uh, there. So, I mean, you have these two guys who, don't like each other, who had this kind of internal struggle, well, external struggle as it were, with their common denominator, which is Steve. Is like Sam's the old best friend, and Steve's the no, Sam's the new best friend, and Steve. Wow, let's see how many times I can flub that. So Sam is the new best friend. James is the old best friend. So you have kind of a light, kind of playful rivalry with that, but now Steve's gone, right? So it's just them. They only have each other to fall back on, especially now with all of this shield business, which is just disgusting to me. And I know there's a lot of talk about that online too, with Wyatt Russell being concerned about people disliking him. It's like I don't have a problem with Wyatt Russell, but let me tell you, seeing him in that suit was just so wrong for several reasons. One, it's personal taste, but he should keep a beard always. Um, Captain America is the only one with kind of a hood mask thing like that, and I never really put too much thought into it, but it really fit Chris Evans' face very well. It does not fit Wyatt Russell's face. I'm sorry, it just doesn't. His chin looks weird. I can see it becoming an internet meme already. Um, so yeah, he definitely needs his beard, and um, I don't want to see that anymore. I don't want to see it. So I wonder how they're going to address that. How Sam is going to get the shield back. I wonder how they're going to go about doing that. Um, do he and Bucky take the shield? Like, man, did you see that news special? What happened there, Sam? They have Steve Shield, bro. What's the deal? I wonder how that's going to go down. So, anyway, it's not interesting content. I wonder who else is going to pop up. I wasn't expecting to see Rhodey and Don Cheadle. I know Sharon Carter's in it. Um, I don't really care about her. We'll see if she's any good. And let's see. I don't know, but I'm mostly just interested to see how they're. Because I know it's going to be a friendship. I'm interested to see how that comes about, how that progresses, and just generally where it goes. So, anyway, that's all I have for right now. And looking forward to next week. Got a little tickle in my throat, so I'm going to cut this short. See you then.